Welcome, viewers. Ever wonder what's going on in space? Well, we cover it, so you don't have to figure it out yourself, and provide a valuable resource for our viewers. So we're looking at the sun on 193 angstroms here, and we see a giant, very defined coronal hole swinging into the Earth-facing region here. It's going to be sending a coronal hole wind stream our way, which should arrive in about 2 days. Otherwise, very low levels of solar activity. 10.7 centimeter radial flux back down to 66 solar flux units, folks. Very low activity, indeed. And let's look at some other views here. Here's 171 angstroms. We see a pretty large filament here in the southeast. We'll zoom in on that. There's that filament complete with date stamps. And let's look at 304 angstroms. And there's a filament from the 304 angstroms view. And let's get a full disk shot. And we're looking at about 6.5 hours of solar activity here, folks. Moving on. Before we get to more data, I would invite people to please follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/smAsho. This channel's actual source of revenue, as YouTube pays us precisely $0. There are also other ways to donate and support the channel, such as our Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign. So check that out. It is linked below the video. There's the link on the screen. Again, click the description box below the video, or more information, or whatever it's called on your platform. To check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, enjoy the 30% off 1,000 milligram whole plant CBD hemp seed oil suspension, as well as some sales on the Kalki THC-free products, and whole plant CBD for cats. It's fish flavored. Check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. And let's get back to data. Here's a real-time solar wind. It looks like the phi angle is settling on 180 degrees again, as it was yesterday when we made the video. Although we didn't really see a prolonged coronal hole magnetic connection there, and we do see the BZ is remaining in positive territory, which is good news for large earthquakes. Solar wind density has relaxed quite a bit, down to 4.42 protons per cubic centimeter. And the solar wind speed at a nominal level here, 369 kilometers per second, equals solar minimum. And there's the data from the ACE spacecraft. Either pause the video or forever hold your peace. And our regular viewers probably know what we're looking at here. We are looking at the summer triangle. Vega, Altair, and Deneb make up the summer triangle. We're looking at an article here from spaceweather.com about a new observatory up in the Tibetan Plateau. A very thin part of the Earth's atmosphere. New observatory being documented here, courtesy spaceweather.com. And I would also note 10.7 centimeter radial flux at 66. Real-time solar wind conditions. Super low activity in general from the local yellow dwarf. Next we'll play 4 hours of magnetosphere movies. As we saw a bunch of anomalous looking data in there yesterday, perhaps caused by cosmic ray spikes. Should look a little more normal today as those anomalies in the solar wind density have relaxed. And those perturbations were probably just mainly on the models, folks, not real perturbations. Let's look at the pressure also. Let's try to look at the pressure. There we go. Bring that back to the beginning here. And there's your 4 hours of data. Courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Model. And we'll look at the geospace ground magnetic perturbations also, although we don't expect to see a whole lot going on here. We'll archive 4 hours of data regardless. Anyway, there's that. For you new viewers out there, realize there are 2 North Poles and the South Pole is creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. KP index is at 2 and it's been only 2 or 1 for the past 24 hours. Here's the F2 ionosphere animation, courtesy Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology, aka the bomb. And there's the latest image of the F2 ionosphere layer. Looking pretty normal here on both the day and nighttime sides. X-ray flux utterly flatlined as it has been since July 7th. There's the GOES electron flux. We're seeing a little dip here. Something to watch throughout the day. We're not expecting a big drop-off yet in this, as there is not a huge number of protons hitting the magnetosphere. And by the way, folks, you new viewers out there, protons are the primary component of the solar wind. Next, we'll bring up the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard just to show you that there is an active region rising, and there is a big plasma filament there also. We are thankful that the GOES X-ray imager is looking a little better than it did. This anomalous line here was obscuring much of the image a couple of weeks ago, but not anymore. And here's the current Signet spiral. This is from the 13th up until this morning. I'm showing you this to note one item here, Parker Solar Probe. Let's talk about fast. The fastest animal in the world is not smAsho, the producer of these videos. No, not at all. It's the peregrine falcon. While I'm pretty fast, not quite as fast as this animal, and certainly not as fast as this animal, the Parker Solar Probe, which is the fastest object ever built by mankind, at least as far as we know. And for all you ancient alien enthusiasts out there, please leave a comment. Speaking of comments, we're going to go over some comments eventually. And we're going to have links to all of this stuff, like the Parker Solar Probe. Now, the Parker Solar Probe is going to return some data that we've never seen before. Here's what its mission is going to do. Right now, it's approaching its 3rd perihelion. So there's the current situation with it. And we'll leave links to each of these pages in the description below the video. Let's go back to a little data. The GOES magnetometer, looking very choppy right now. Let's see if we can figure out any reasons. And there's the Gong 2 data. We do see some battle over the fields going on the opposite side of the sun over here. And again, this active region rising here, there are no sunspots, at least currently visible. And there's nothing like coronal mass ejections or anything like that, although there is a coronal hole wind stream which should be arriving in about 2 days from that very defined coronal hole. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. There's where stuff is in our solar system. If you're viewing the videos from a different solar system, universe, multiverse, plane of existence, spacecraft, galaxy, etc., please leave a comment. And there's where things will be in 1 week. New moon. Here's what's going on above my head right now. Check out in-the-sky.org. I use SkyMap 2 to create a sky chart for myself. Create your own by going to the website if you like. If you're interested in which stars are up, you can even animate the map. Good times in-the-sky.org. Also, check out Galaxy Zoo, as we need human beings to classify galaxies. It's pretty easy to do. And it's the largest, Zooniverse.org is the largest citizen science project in the world. This is a very interesting galaxy here. It's very irregular. It's got all kinds of interesting features, including a strong bar, as well as some spiral arm patterns and all kinds of funky features. So check out Zooniverse.org's Galaxy Zoo project, like I'm doing right now, and classify a galaxy. We need people to do it, as this is too complex for computer systems to handle. I'm going to say it's 2 spiral arms. And if you're wondering if there's a bulge, perhaps you've never watched our live streams, and perhaps you've never responded with the terms That's what she said. We're looking at a small bulge. And is it merging or disturbed? I'm going to say major disturbance. And we got rare features galore. We got a ring. We got a lens. We got irregularity. We got dust lanes. Looks like some overlap there. And I'm going to say something else. Done. That's how you do it. Classify a galaxy. Check it out. We got an edge on disk here. These are super important in cosmology. Will you be the citizen science to classify this galaxy? Citizen scientist, rather. Stay tuned, folks. We got a lot more interesting stuff to cover yet, including earthquakes, such as this 4.8 in Indonesia taking place about 22 hours ago. We did see a 5.0 in California. But first, we're going to talk about this 4.7 in Peru, which is at depth. Heads up, Western South America. You are in line for a large quake at the surface. You've been seeing deep quakes. Here's a very deep quake at the Mariana Islands. It's a 5.4 magnitude, but it's at 500 plus kilometers depth. That's the kind of thing that could generate a tsunami if it happened at the surface, as it would be like a 7 magnitude quake. 4.6 at the West Chile rise, out toward Easter Island. Shout out if you're viewing the video from Easter Island. I somehow doubt it. Largest quake we've seen in quite a while there in Hawaii. Let's zoom in on that and see if it's perhaps volcanic in nature. It doesn't really look like it, but it's out in the ocean, so it's hard to say. Well off the coast of Pahala. Holla if you're in Pahala. Alright, there's that quake. Here's another 500 kilometer depth quake near Fiji. And we saw some volcanic activity up there too. We're going to cover that in a minute. An interesting pumice field erupted from an underground seamount. Here's a 4.2 in Nicaragua. Here's a 5.9. Looks like the largest quake of the past 24. Sagave, Wallace, and Futuna, also near Fiji, Tonga region. Here's that 5.0 of California. Let's zoom in on that. It's right over the China Lake Naval Air Warfare Center. There's a location of that. And back to the list, we see a 4.2 at Ecuador. We see a 4.9 at Nicaragua, 4.7. Sagave, Wallace, and Futuna. 5.6 at Vanuatu. That one is at depth. Heads up for a larger quake there. That's a tsunami generating type region. 5.2 north of New Zealand in that oceanic rift zone. 4.2 at Alaska, out in the Aleutian Islands. Moving on. Here are the pressure maps. And we're going to talk about some nonsensical articles about Greenland in the media right now. So before we do that, we're going to show you everybody's favorite layer, snow depth. And there you go. The mainstream media is going to tell you Greenland is melting. That pink color, that represents 9 feet of snow. That area only featuring 185.2 inches. Oh no, ocean levels are going to rise. Greenland is melting. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Now we're going to talk about some super interesting stuff in the volcano rundown, but first we're going to see which volcanoes are going off. Kamchatka increasing in activity and exploding, producing a 20,000 foot ash plume. Mount Aso, possible activity. Popocatépetl, possible emissions there. Revenador, Nevados de Chilean. Sporadic puffs there. Please do not pole vault Nevados de Chilean. Now I'm going to cite an article on electroverse.net. Fantastic article here about the underwater seamount. Check this out. Here's a catamaran, which is sailing from Fiji to Tonga or something like that. Watch this view. This is absolutely incredible. That is pumice floating on the surface of the water as far as you can see, folks. That is a pumice field out in the middle of the ocean. If that's not amazing, I don't know what is. Absolutely unbelievable. Here's a view from on the boat. They lost a little bit of paint The largest pieces were about the size of a basketball. Most of them were about marble-sized. And we did get the location of that. And right there is where that happened. Right in between Tonga and Fiji. We'll zoom out so our viewers can see where that is. There's a location of where that pumice field was. And here we're looking at the eastern world in terms of the jet stream. So let's get that zoomed out properly there. There we go. Extremely powerful jet streams in the southern hemisphere and extremely weak jet streams in the northern hemisphere. As we see convective forces governing the airflow in the north as opposed to a real jet stream. You can't call it meridional jet stream flow if there's not really a continuous jet stream. But meanwhile, in the south, the jet stream is extremely concentrated, extremely meridional, pulling cold air up toward the equator and pulling hot air toward the poles. Here's the current AccuWeather Doppler radar. Let me zoom that out. There you go. Some people were killed in Poland by a lightning strike, by the way. We're not going to cover it any more than to mention it. We still see this long line of convergent storms here, stretching all the way from Cape Cod to central Texas, southwestern Texas. And here's the water vapor situation. We're going to zoom in on that area over the Oklahoma-Arkansas border. As we like our viewers to understand atmospheric physics, so we show people Hall current streamers all the time, which are these parallel lines, which people look up in the sky and they see parallel clouds and they think it's chemtrails. They're not aware that the atmosphere is ruled by Hall currents. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, folks. That's just the way things work. And this weather porn section brought to you by me at massive personal expense. So support the channel and understand the distinction between your donkey and a sinkhole. And we'll drop all kinds of wisdom on the channel. And thanks especially donors and Smash team. Look for new Smash streams coming soon. And last but not least, here's a bonus image. We're looking at the sun at 131 angstroms here. Now this is an interesting image because this actually shows 5 times as many views as the other scopes, save for the 94 angstroms, which also shows, I believe it's 10 per minute instead of only 2 per minute. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. We are out of here. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink it. If you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.